The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Genesis. Genesis is going to tell us all about her life. So, Genesis, if you can tell me where and when you were born, and if you can describe what it was like where you grew up, the schools you went to, and the education that you received. So, you're in the room.
Hello, Tim, and thank you for having me on. So, I was born in Houston, Texas, a little bit between Houston and Baytown, Texas. I am a 90s baby, so I was born in the 90s, and I love hip hop music, country music, um, pretty much all music, and just growing up for me has been amazing. I am first generation American, so my father was from Curacao, so off the tip of Venezuela, and my mother is West Indian, so she is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the West Indies.
Excellent. So, you were actually born in Houston,
Yes,
around about the time they were saying, Houston, we have
Houston.
a problem.
Yeah.
You wasn't the problem.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so what was it like where you grew up? What was the school like? Your sort of your first school that you can remember. Can you remember back as far as kindergarten, or do we have to come slightly forward to elementary?
So, kindergarten is still elementary here. So, I think it was a diverse school. I went to two different elementary schools. The first one was where I kind of grew up for a little bit was Baytown, Texas, and then we moved to Houston, so the bigger city. So there was diversity there. When I came to Houston, there was not a lot of African American students whenever I moved to school in Houston, but I quickly assimilated because I am a fun, bubbly, energetic person, always been that way up until high school where I faced some bullying. So that kind of led me down a spiral where I went through a mere spurt of depression, but then quickly found myself again because I am from a religious and spiritual background. So, having my parents speak life into me definitely helped.
You say beat life into you.
No, I speak life, not beat.
Oh,
Speak.
speak. I thought
Yeah.
they had to beat it into you.
Oh, no, no, no. Definitely not. Speak it.
So, what was your elementary school like? What were
um,
the teachers like there? What were the other kids like?
I can remember it vaguely. I know I had a great relationship with my teachers for because they really molded and shaped me. And the students, I kind of vaguely remember the students. I remember myself enjoying going to school, but that's about it. I can't remember like um all the details of what it was like.
Can you remember what class that you enjoyed the most? What
Oh
subject
yeah.
was that that you most like going to school for?
I definitely in elementary school, I think it was art class because I am a very creative person and with art, it liberates you and you're so free to like create different projects, use different colors, and I very much like colors. Especially work especially whenever I got older working in professional settings. I was that one lady that had a bunch of color sticky notes on my desk and people could tell by my nails I really do like color. My nails are bright orange and I have a yellow top one.
Not clashing at all then.
No.
Okay, so let's move slightly on from your elementary school. What about your junior? Was it junior high, the next level up?
Yes, junior high, same as middle school. So I definitely remember middle school. Middle school is like, those teenager years where, peer pressure is real. You're trying to fit in and do all of that. I remember I was in the choir program. I had different types of friends. There was more diversity there, especially in the school that I went to. I used to love going on field trips. Like for choir, we went to Slitherbond and we went to, which is a water park for those of you listening. We also went to other different field trips, sung at the church and different stuff like that. And I think that's the period where you're still trying to identify and find out who you are and kind of find your grounding.
Hmm. So tell us about the choir then. So what was that choir program all about? And what I don't know what to call it. Were you a tenor or were you a
Alto.
baritone?
Alto. So the choir was interesting. I did the choir because I didn't necessarily want to play an instrument by going in band or orchestra. So I think the choir was just the easiest fit. And I just really wasn't sure what other electives that I wanted to do. So that subject was kind of fun. I think if I would have, explored more ideas, I probably would have picked something else than choir that was more well rounded. But other than that, I think I had a good time.
Hmm. So what was the sort of stuff that you were singing in the choir? Was it all choral music? Was it all sort of hymns and stuff like that? Or did you diversify a bit?
It was definitely diversified a bit because we used to have a thing called Pop Show where you do different themes. So like some would be a 90s theme, some would be a 70s theme each year because the choir program you could either be in it the first year or 3 years. And I guess I ended up staying in it all 3 years and then I joined in high school just because I wanted, something that was easy that kind of filled up my plate load.
Hmm. So what was your favourite sort of music to sing?
Ooh, I would probably say pop music. And I am definitely not a singer. Like I said, it was just to pass time and make sure I got those credits.
So did you have to learn to read music?
Oh yeah, that's that's a key component. You definitely have to learn how
Hmm.
to read music as well as know some of the tones and all of that has since went out of the window because as I'm sure your audience knows, if you don't practice something and keep up with it, you tend to lose it. Kind of like languages, for example.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's sometimes it's a little bit like riding a bike. It does come back, but it doesn't come back as quick on some subjects as others. So you didn't carry on singing then once you left school. So
No,
so you didn't carry on singing in the choir at the church.
no. I'll leave that to someone who is an expert, not a novice.
Because I have a terrible, terrible singing voice, and I mean, I couldn't even carry a tune in a bucket. And yeah, when I start singing, it puts everybody else off. So let's explore a bit more of your middle school then. So in middle school, then, what was your worst subject?
I don't really think I had one. I could say my least favorite subject was history. But as far as a worst subject, there were no worst subjects because you didn't bring home anything less than a B.
Else that would have been a beating rather than
Not a beating, I would say a conversation.
yes, a one-way conversation without coffee.
I plead the fifth on that one.
So, so, so you're on permanent receive rather than gotcha. So you did study. Um, what was your best subject then? What subject did you enjoy the most at school in your middle
Ooh.
school?
Math. I really enjoyed math and I was really good at it.
Is that because it involved money at the time?
No, because in middle school I didn't really work, so there was no money involved. I just liked breaking down certain problems and as well as solving certain things, and I thought that was really neat because no matter where you go in life, you're always going to need some form of math.
Yeah. I mean, for me, maths is all about um, working out how much money I've got in my pocket and whether I can afford something or not. so, so, so that's where my maths took me. And when it comes to doing anything like algebra or fractions, well, might as well. I didn't bother.
Yeah, algebra was really fun.
Fun?
Yeah,
Oh
a
man,
squared plus b squared equals c squared. There's so many cool things like the
yeah.
formulas.
And then you stick a pie in there. I
Hmm.
mean, the only pie that I knew is one that had meat and potato in it.
Oh gosh, Tim.
Yeah, I know. I had a terrible schooling when I actually went. But we won't go down that route. So we're talking about your schooling. So what can you? What was? I mean, did you take part in the sports and stuff at school, in
So
the
just
middle school?
the PE, so physical education, and then I wanted to do track because I was a really fast runner. But whenever you do those activities, you have to get to school really, really early. And my dad was the only driver at the time, so my mom did not know how to drive, so everything will fall back on my dad. So my mom was like, "No, I don't think she should do that because there's the track meets, then you have to go to track practice, and so many other things. That's just too much time." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could have been a track star."
Yeah, you could, but you could have run for America.
Yeah, I was really good at it too.
That's a shame that they put a kibosh on that. Really. So you didn't get onto the track team and stuff. You didn't get really encouraged.
No,
So
and
do you have to get driven to school then? You didn't sort of run to school.
Oh,
You could
no.
get
No,
yourself.
no, 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 and I did not wanna go on the yellow school bus. I liked my dad to drive me to school because then I could stop along the way to get breakfast or whatever else, and I could sleep in. I get to sleep in a little bit longer.
That's not the attitude you should have been taking at that stage.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was, Tim, because can you imagine riding on a yellow school bus, depending on, like, how packed the bus was, like, 2 people to 3 people to a seat? Like, oh, no, like, especially if I'm having a morning where I just need to at least close my eyes some more, I can't really be comfortable. At least in the car, in the front seat, I could close my eyes, I could relax, I could recline the seat, and just enjoy my ride.
Outrageous. So let's move on a little bit. Let's look at your junior high.
Oh, so junior high is the same as middle school here in the States. So the
Right.
next thing would be high school. So because it's
So,
elementary, middle school, and high school.
so your high school, then you moved to a different school altogether. Then.
Yes, each yeah. Because high school is ninth through 12th grade here in the States. So high school was a bit challenging. As I mentioned, I was a
Mm,
victim of bullying. So that was kind of a hard time for me. And then I would say what really helped me find myself there was just having my dad, who is my biggest supporter. I wish he was still here. He passed in 2020. Just speak
mhm,
life to me and just tell me how great I was. Tell me what God thinks of me, and just really pour those affirmations inside of me. And that helped me to get out of the dark season. I did the choir
mhm,
for I think a year. Then I got out of the choir and did a co-op program because I wanted to start working and I did not want a typical teenager job like working at the movie theater or fast food because customers are not always right. And that's just not my my personality. So my first job was actually real estate. I worked at Remax Preferred Homes and I was an assistant to a broker, and I think that was amazing. Then my next job was working at the cancer center, which was phenomenal because I wanted to go to medical school. And then, I lasted in that job for 4 months, not by choice, but because they were building a new hospital facility in the area. So they had advanced technology for cancer patients. So a lot of our cancer patients went there. So imagine if you have more staff than you have cancer patients. That's not really a practical move for business. So my job was obsolete. So then that led me to fall into oil and gas for 12 years, which I was in oil and gas in high school. And then I stayed in oil and gas up until February of 2021. So I had 12 years in oil and gas and energy.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves now. So, so let's just to wind it back slightly. Let's have a quick look at the real estate business. So, what were you actually doing as an assistant with the real estate?
So
What did the
you
job entail?
So you help with the clients that were coming in looking for homes. You get their information. You find out, okay, do you want a 1 story or a 2 story? How many bedrooms do you want? How many baths do you want? Then I enter that information into a database. Then from there, we go out and show them the current listings that we have. If they were interested in a home that was already constructed, or if they wanted a new construction, then we would have to go out and find what area would you like to live in. Do you have children? Because the children would drive, okay, these are the schools that feed into the neighborhood and etc. Then we would go out and show them the different properties that were out there up until they came to a point where they were interested in putting an offer down or a bid, especially if it was a home that was already built. They would have to bid because there's other buyers that may be interested in that same property. But if it's a new construction, then you just put your offer in, as in you want to purchase that home.
All right, because that's a quite a different system to what we have here. We've just gone through it with our son. He was renting and living up just outside London, um, and he came into a little bit of money for a deposit for a house. So he's moving down here. So he gave up his rented place and moved in with us, and it was only going to be for a few weeks. It's taken, right, get this, it's a straightforward move. He's a first time buyer, mortgage agreed and everything like that, money's there. Put an offer in the beginning of November, and he completes this coming Thursday. 7 months moving into a flat on a leasehold, and the lady that's moving out, there's no chain. 7 months to do the conveyancing. It's crazy. I
Well,
bet it doesn't take that long in America, does it? I bet you
yeah.
do it in a week.
Oh, no, no, not in a week. It depends. Like, because if it is a home that is already a constructed home, and say the sellers may still be living in that home, you have to wait for the sellers to move out. Then they may want the home cleaned. The home needs to be inspected. And then if the inspector finds something that is not suitable, they need to correct those problems, and then the inspector will make sure that those problems are corrected. So that could take some time. Then if you're
Mhm.
building a new home, that could be from anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on the materials, the workers, and etc. But now, as everyone around the world is having a supply chain issue, it's taking a lot longer for supplies to come
Mm.
in. So I'm sure in present day, it's probably taking maybe 9 to 12 months to construct a home, depending on the brick, the
Yeah.
foundation, and stuff like that. So it does take a while,
Mm.
depending on which route you're going.
Yeah. But expect a straightforward move where they just do the odd land searches, get the management package from the leaseholder, uh, to be very easy. But no, it's just taken so long. It's just the frustration. Uh, and he's not the tidiest of kids, I can tell you. It's driving his mother nuts,
Well, that's
leaving
what he
stuff all
has,
over the place.
because he says, "Mom and Dad are here to help pick up after me."
Yeah, that doesn't happen, I tell you. He's had the old gripping section. There's been one way coffee, I can tell you.
Oh God.
So so let's move on a bit. So you worked at a hospital in a cancer ward.
Yes,
How
so
was that?
it was a cancer center that I was working at. I worked there for 4 months. And the reason how I got that job is because before going there to work as an employee, I used to volunteer there. Cancer is one of the one of my organizations of choice that I like to partner with because my aunt had cancer and she passed away with leukemia. So I always try to give back to anything that is cancer initiative or something that I feel like I could contribute, whether it's doing a walk to raise
Mm.
money or if it's a camp out or whatever the case may be. So, since I already had a rapport with them on the volunteering side, whenever I needed a job, they ended up hiring me because, they already kind of know me from helping
Hmm.
out. And I think
So, yeah. So, what did your job entail then? Was it one of these centres where people come and get sort of treatment for chemotherapy, that sort of thing, or was it something different?
No, it was that. They would come to our cancer center to get treatment, whether it was chemotherapy or radiation. And my job entailed I was the one at the front desk. So I was greeting them. I made sure I updated their patient chart. So whether I was updating their insurance or putting in the information that I received from the nurses, their vitals, or etc. Sometimes I would help out with dictations, meaning the annotations from the doctor, just making sure that went into the system. And
Mm.
then also prepping the room, made sure the room was clean for each patient to go in. Not necessarily that I would actually go in and clean everything, but just make sure everything was neat and tidy. So whenever they did get back in the room, they were comfortable. Making sure our snacks were refilled for them. So we would offer juices, coffee, tea, water, and other snacks that they could consume while they were waiting because we want them to have an experience that was easy, a experience that was welcoming.
Yeah. Well, I've got some experience of a cancer centre in Aylesbury in England. It's called the Wooden Spoon Centre, and it's sponsored by, or it's helped funded by the rugby in England. And my previous wife, my now late wife, had non-Hodgkin's high-grade lymphoma, and we used to go there, and she had the treatment. So she was on chemo. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't work. Well, it worked the first time, and then she got it a second time.
Mm.
And there's a top tip there: don't get cancer a second time because it's harder to survive from. But she didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
So
that, Tim.
yeah, so I've got that bit of experience of cancer, and it's not a lot of fun getting cancer. Trust me.
No, it's definitely not. And I can't say that I understand what someone who has cancer is going through, but I can resonate because my cousin is currently going through her battle with cancer and she just got a bone marrow transplant. So that
Mm.
it's been interesting to see that journey because my aunt that passed away is actually her daughter and her only daughter.
Mm. Yeah, unfortunately, it does tend to kind of run in families a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So did I suppose the word enjoy isn't the right word to use, but it was a worthwhile job doing, that's for sure.
Oh yes, most assuredly, because there are some patients that I met there that their perspective on life was just incredible. Like for them to be going through something as gruesome as cancer, they were just full of life, full of energy, and they never said why me. They always they always came in with just so much outlook and perspective on life, and it was so fun to talk to them because sometimes you may think like, oh my gosh, I'm having a bad day, but you're not fighting for your life
Yeah,
as if they are. So I
yeah,
think just having that viewpoint and working in that field definitely opens up your eyes to be more aware and more appreciative of what you have versus complaining.
absolutely. So, well done for that. I mean, that's a challenging place to be at the best of times. Um, so well done for sticking it out for 4 months. So you obviously you had to move on from there when they moved the centre to a new place and they had more staff than they had patients. So What did you do next?
Oil and gas. So I worked for a small mom and pop British company. It was corrosion based. I started as an imaging clerk, and when I left there, it was as a HSC, so health, safety, and environmental manager.
Oh, so what's an imaging clerk all about then? What does that
Oh my
entail?
gosh. If y'all could see my eyes roll, I was like, oh, that was the most boringest job, y'all, because you would just scan papers all day long as an imaging clerk. You would take a paper, feed it in the machine, get it, look at it on the screen, make sure everything was processed, and then you would put the next batch of paper in, and you would do that all day. Like there was one day where I actually fell asleep at work because I was so bored doing it, because it was like you would scan and eat your snacks and scan. And I remember my first boss, like she came and tapped me on the shoulder and she's like, "You fell asleep. Like you cannot do that." And after that, I quickly learned that that was not the role I wanted to be in. So I really had to network within the company, and I started asking the project managers, like, what is it that you do in this department? And so forth. And that's what allowed me to switch from being an imaging clerk to project coordination, where I was working with the project managers, helping them with reports and so forth. So then I moved up in the company. And then from project coordination, I moved into HSC, which is health, safety, and environmental as an assistant. Helped my supervisor build the entire safety program from the ground up. Because, like I said, it was a small mom and pop company, but we did business with bigger oil and gas companies. Then, when she left to go work for a Fortune 500 company, they gave me her role as the manager. So that was quite an experience. I stayed there for 4.5 years until I was ready to move on to a bigger company.
So, so what is it? It's a company that supplies gas and electric to households. Is it? Is that how it works?
No, they focused on corrosion. So they looked at different types of corrosion. So there are four different types of corrosion, and we surveyed different risers. Like, so the platforms that you see out in the Gulf or around the world, that they had risers and platforms, we would go out and our project managers or our divers would survey that platform to see what type of corrosion did the platform have. Okay, if it has corrosion, these are the ways that the company that we're going out to survey the product for can mitigate that corrosion or correct the problem via certain types of treatments and etc.
Oh, right. So it was predominantly offshore stuff that where the environment is attacking the platforms.
Yes, and we were service based.
Yeah. So did you actually get to go out onto the platforms, or
Oh no.
you
It
weren't one of
sounded
the
cool.
engineers?
No, I was definitely not an engineer, and I was still in high school when I was working for this company up until I graduated, so definitely not my forte.
Mm. So what did you do after you graduated then?
So I stayed with the company a little bit longer up until I had worked up to that manager position, and I wanted to go work for a bigger company with international ties. So I started applying at Fortune 500 companies, and then I landed a company where I was there for 7.5 years up until February 2021.
Okay. And what did you do for that company? Did you come in sort of halfway up the ladder because you'd already got a good skill set from the previous company?
No, since this was a bigger company, I had to start all the way over, which was kind of like a slap in the
Not
face.
not imaging Clark again.
No, this time I was at, oh gosh, Tim, don't make me barf. um, this time it was as an administrative assistant. So I was the assistant for a group of, I think it was like ten employees and one manager. So I would help with setting up the meetings, ordering lunches, assisting with different conferences and etc. Stayed in that role for 4.5 years. Then once I graduated with my college degree, because I was going to school at night and working
Mm.
full time, I ended up getting my degree in supply chain and logistics and technology with double minors in purchasing and organizational leadership and supervision. And then I went on to be a raw material coordinator. And that role entails you're ordering all of the raw materials that go into making a certain commodity. And my commodity was plastics. So it was polypropylene. So I ordered the raw materials for the entire chemical plant. Managed to stay in that role for 11 months because I wasn't really getting bored. I just didn't want to commute 4 hours a day because I was commuting 2 hours to get there and 2 hours home. And around that time, my now husband had proposed. So I couldn't even plan my own wedding because I was always late coming home
Mhm.
because traffic. So I tell people my husband planned our entire wedding except for my hair, my makeup, and my wedding dress.
I did that
You did?
actually. Yeah, for my last wedding to to the current Mrs. Heale.
Really?
I
Why did
did,
you
yeah.
have to do it?
Well, it involved because I was still serving in the military, and we wanted to get married in the Guards Chapel at Wellington Barracks, opposite Buckingham Palace. I did all the arrangements there. I sorted out with the vicar, and I sorted out with the mess because we went into the science mess after for the breakfast. We had a small party of about 40 of us, and so I organised it all. Got the food sorted out, the reception sorted out, and the wedding itself sorted out. And I booked the weather, and yeah, it was a lovely day. 10th of April it was. The sun came out, lots of tourists about, and they were. We came out of church and having pictures taken on the steps of the church, and there's lots and lots of tourists around because it's the Guards Chapel is one of those um, tourist spots that people come to, and just opposite the Guards Chapel is the Guards Museum, so people are coming in and out. And we're stood on the steps having the pictures taken, and there's hundreds and hundreds of tourists around clicking away at taking pictures of us getting our pictures taken for our wedding. And then we went across and we went into the barracks itself, and we went to the science mess for a wedding breakfast.
Oh, wow.
So, and I organised all of that, and she loved it. And the only thing I didn't organise was her hair, makeup, and dress. She did that bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. I got married in uniform.
Interesting. You should have had the picture up in the background so we could have saw.
Ah, didn't know I was going to talk about it. So, how did your husband do with the arrangements for the wedding?
Oh, he did very well. And he changed 4 times. He did secret performances for me. So he danced to Beauty and the Beast, and he dressed up as Beast, and I was obviously the Beauty. I had my wedding dress on and everything. I thought that was really cool. It was a surprise. Then he did like a little rap show for me, and then the highlight was a magic Mike show that people kept talking about. Like someone, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was the best wedding that I've ever been to." And then his mom changed once, so she had the dress that she wore for our ceremony at the church, and then at the reception she had her another dress that she changed into, and she also helped with the decorations and etc. So that was cool. So I think all in all, we had a great wedding. More people showed up than they RSVP'd.
Mm.
So that was kind of like a pickle because the venue, we only paid for a certain amount of people, and they wanted to charge us the day of our wedding to set out more tables and chairs, and I'm like, I'm not paying for that. That's why you should have had security at the door to check to make sure that they were actually invited and RSVP'd.
Yeah. So you had a few gate crashes, did you?
Yeah. And I told my husband if we were to do it all over again, I definitely want a destination wedding. And that's what I wanted from the beginning was a destination wedding because I knew he had a big family and I had a big family. And I was like, it's not about everyone else. It's about our day and what we wanted. But he's very
Absolutely.
family oriented.
See, I had armed guards on mine, so carry guns and everything, wouldn't let people in. I ain't got a ticket, you ain't coming in. So,
Oh gosh.
so
I think
that's how we kept the numbers down.
I think here in the US, I will definitely kind of turn some people away, and they will probably talk about that. Like, can you believe at her wedding she had people
Yeah.
standing out there with guns?
But there you go. So on the day there was a guard mount as well. So all the guests saw the guard mount before coming into the church. So that was kind of exciting for them. So I lay on all these things. You see, that's what I thought about. So bring us up to date then.
So, up to date 2022. So, I am, now in the full time entrepreneurship bucket. I have a book out that's called Chocolate Drop in Corporate America From the Pit to the Palace. I run my own podcast, which you are well aware since you were a guest on my show, Tim, Gems
Was
Podcast. And I really love to just put out topics that are educational, inspirational, and motivational while weaving in my passion areas, which are diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. A lot of things are happening behind the scenes, like me coming into motherhood and etc., which is a beautiful thing. So I'm just excited for where life has taken me and the journey that I'm on. The biggest regret that I have right now is that my dad won't be here to meet my little bundle of joy, but I know he is in heaven smiling down along with my two grandmothers that passed shortly after him.
that's nice. Now, just wind it back slightly. This is how you kind of got into it through lockdown, I guess.
In a sense, I really ramped it up in lockdown, but I got into podcasting in May of 2020 after my book hit the market. I was doing a lot of guest appearances, which led to me being featured in magazines, which led to different CEOs wanting me to host their podcast. And then after hosting their podcast, then I decided to start my own show after my dad passed. And it was just a way for me to deal with the grief that I was feeling.
Hmm. So I'll tell you something. When I was a welfare officer in my last job before I retired, I had to go and do the equality, diversity, and inclusion course, and I did it 3 times over the 8 years that I was in the job. And the reason I had to do it is because I was the advisor for the garrison. So, so they sent me off on this course, and it was an interesting course because it's like a 5-day course down at Shrivenham, which is the Defence College at the time, and still is. And you cover all the topics. You look at all the different problems that you can run into, and then when you get back and you're having to deliver this, you stand up in front of 100 guys in a lecture theatre and talking about equality, diversity, and inclusion, and all the rest of it. It's you can have some fun with it, I can tell you. But to go
Yes.
down that road of being the single point of contact for the garrison does bring its own dramas. I can tell you, when you got somebody with a grievance, somebody said something nasty to somebody, and then you've got to try and sort it out, and then go through whatever process they want to take it down. It was a challenge, I can tell you that.
I can only imagine because there are so many different challenges when you look at diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, whether you're looking at it from a corporation standpoint or you're looking from it from an entrepreneurship standpoint, where you're starting your business and you're beginning to scale up and you need to take certain matters into consideration.
Yeah, and from a military perspective as well, because it is part of um, their the core values and the training that every soldier gets in the military nowadays. So it's yeah, it was fun, it was good, and I enjoyed what I was doing. But at the end of 8 years as a welfare officer, I was ready to retire. I can tell you.
You did your time and you said, you know what? I paid my dues. I had enough. I had enough. So now it's
Yeah,
time to exit.
absolutely. One thing I can say is that I look good on a mess night.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go. So this is going well for you then,
Oh,
your
yes.
podcasting and stuff.
Yes. Today I just checked my metrics and I actually bumped up. So I went from the top 2.5% to the top 2% now.
That's because you've had me on your show. What can I say? I like to help out. So the Genesis, where can people find your book and your podcast?
So all of my information can be found on my website, which is genesisamarisKemp.net, and I will spell that. That's GenesisAmarisKemp.net. So there is a tab for my book. You'll get the first chapter of my book for free. There's a tab for the podcast. You can see the podcast guests that have been on my show, as well as where I have been featured on. There's also a tab for my radio show that I do on a monthly basis, which is internet based radio, which can be heard worldwide. And then the last tab is features and merchandise. I do have merchandise for my podcast, and then I do have some more freebies there for the audience. So you could take a health assessment for free, as well as grab a free health and wellness sample, which is the Kiani Sunrise.
Oh, now you just slipped over something there that you didn't talk about. What's this about a radio station you host or guest on?
So the radio station I host on is a product of WBNN. We air it out of Lagos, Nigeria. There's different hosts that come on there, so it airs Monday through Sunday. So there's different hosts such as myself. I do my show every 4 weeks. So my next show would be on June 6th, if I'm not mistaken, doing it off the top of my head because I don't have my calendar in front of me, and I cover the top news articles and then I go into the gem segment afterwards, where sometimes I will either talk about something that I'm passionate about or I'll bring on someone and interview them live on the radio.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. So what do you talk about? What's the sort of the kind of subjects that you cover?
Oh, there's various subjects that will probably be too lengthy to go into right now, but I try to keep it subjects that kind of pertain to my podcast too, which are either educational, inspirational, or motivational, which would be the second half of the show, and then the first half is just bringing together news from all over the world that's happening, and I'll
Hmm.
pick like the top three news stories, or maybe sometimes the top four news stories. I'll pick like a world news, a US news, or something that may be in pop culture.
Hmm. And how long's the show go on for?
So sometimes about an hour to an hour and 30 minutes.
Brilliant. So I'll put all that in the description. So if anybody wants to have a listen to your radio show, they can tune in.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. This has been really, really enjoyable.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.